Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei got Isekai'd and My Wife is the Demon Queen Part 2, Chapter 5. WTF. Issei's eyes widen in shock and awe as both he and Isabella were standing in front of the White Dragon Knight group leader's residence. To say that Issei didn't accept this would be a bucking lie. He had a feeling that Sophisa's would have a pretty decent place since he was a squad leader of one of several knights that protect the capital. Although, the brown-haired boy was not expecting the said residence to be the size of a bucking mansion on top of another mansion. Looking at it now, the building almost looked like something that would be built in Minecraft or one of those other video games that allow you to build massive buildings. Issei kinda liked those types of games when he was younger, they allowed his imagination to go wild and there was no limit to what he could do. Maybe he should do that again when he finds a way to get back home, to his world. Issei. Whoa, this place is bloody huge. Is this the perk of being a squad leader? Isabella shook her head as she deadpanned. Issei was acting like a 4-year-old who just saw a new toy. Isabella. You haven't seen anything yet, human. Issei was confused by the Demon Queen's words. What did she mean by that? Was she talking about the massive house before them or was she speaking of the houses in the demon lands? It could go either way, maybe the buildings where Isabella came from look way different than the ones over on the human side. But he wouldn't anything since he was basically an enigma to all of this, despite having read numerous isekai and anime and manga. He doubts the Drake would be surprised by the building in front of them, after all, he was a dragon, and they are well known to have tons of treasure like gold, jewels, weapons, and other kinds of things in their caves. Okay, now Issei can't help but wonder if Drake has a secret stash of treasure back in their world. If he does then he could probably use it since Drake won't be needing it, plus what can an all-powerful creature with no physical body do with mountains of treasure? The Welsh dragon wasn't like Smaug from that one movie and book, what was its name again? Elden Ring. No, that was a video game. Lord of the Rings. Issei feels like that is a part of it, since he could recall there being a very powerful ring that was said to rule them all. Anyway, Issei feels like he should get back on track and stay focused on the mission. He had to find a way to get Isabella back to her reign of power, being queen of the demon tribe, and also find a way to get back home to his loved ones. He can't stay in an isekai world forever, even if it has a very hot woman with massive breasts. Issei's jaw nearly struck the ground as he and Isabella were now standing inside Sophisa's house. He guessed he must have subconsciously followed both the knight and Isabella inside cause he doesn't remember walking in. That feels like it's gonna be a problem later on, so he may have to ask Drake to snap him out of his thoughts, just in case he nearly goes walking into a trap or off a bloody cliff. Anyway, he couldn't believe his eyes. The room he was standing in was so huge, it almost looked like the inside of a castle which Issei has also never been in. The only other place that he can recall looking similar to this was Riser's home, then again most of that place was on fire. Smokey the Bear is not gonna happy with the members of the Phenex household, not at all. He's gonna teach them all lessons about fire safety, thinking about it now sends a shiver down Issei's spine. Issei. Geez, for a made-up character. He sounds like a bucking horror movie villain. But back to the matter at hand, ignoring the time Issei technically went to the Phenex household, this was his first time being inside a place like this, it almost felt like something out of a dream. Issei. This place certainly looks awesome, Greg. I do agree, somewhat with you on that one, partner. Issei. Why only somewhat? Greg. Simple, because I've seen better places. Issei couldn't help but roll his eyes at the dragon's words, he had a feeling that he would say something like that or just something along those lines in general. Dragons are forces of nature, uncontrollable creatures who wouldn't hesitate to burn, freeze, poison, slash, or rip and tear some unfortunate soul. Sure, in anime and manga dragons are depicted to be weak and on some occasions additions to the main character's harem. Issei both liked and hated this, he liked it because there was a chance to see a hot female dragon woman with massive tits. But he hated it because they made dragons so weak, take that time I got reincarnated as a slime. They had some dragons in them, very powerful ones, but soon they'll get outshined by a slime who can devour everything in his path. There are some other ones, 2 specific ones that depicted dragons as the main characters and had them both shy, cowardly, and weak. That is not what dragons are meant to be, they are supposed to be unstoppable and ferocious terrors of the land, sea, and sky. They are meant to strike fear into the hearts of every man, woman, child, elder, and animal when they hear the sound of their roars or the flaps of their massive wings. This is part of the reason Issei likes Drake, the tales of him being the most powerful dragon who could kill even gods with his flames, is what a dragon is meant to be. A creature that even gods are afraid of going up against, not some wimpy lizard who can't fight. Issei. I know you have, Drake. I know you have. You must be the owner's associates. Issei perked up as he turned his head to the source of the voice and was greeted by not 1, not 2, but a total of 3 maids. The one who talked and the one Issei guessed as the head maid was a beautiful full-figured and curvaceous woman of regular height. With shoulder-lengthy hair and she wore a pair of glasses. Elena. I'm housekeeper Elena, the owner has commanded that we take good care of you. While Issei had to admit, the woman was very beautiful and had some very nice pair of breasts. The more he looked at her the more that she reminded the brown-haired boy of a certain maid who serves his king household. If he can recall correctly, her name was Graphia. Graphia Lucifuge, the maid and the queen of Ria's older brother, were one of the 4 great satans. Issei. Whoa, she almost resembles that maid who serves Ria's brother, Greg. Indeed, I do see the similarities. But I don't sense any magical power from her or anything that makes me believe that she isn't human. Issei. Yeah, we haven't been able to pick up anything since we got here. Greg. Different from these isekais you mentioned. Issei nodded his head. Issei. Yeah, in a isekai magic can be slightly different. But it's basically the same as the magic back in our world. Greg. Interesting. I wonder if you can learn this world's version of magic. Issei. Not sure, it's best not to jump to any conclusions until we actually know about this world's magic. Greg had to say, he was surprised that his partner was actually saying things like a smart person. For the most part, all that has ever been in the boy's head is tits and nothing but them. The Welsh dragon was glad that his partner was growing, maybe one day he'll be strong enough to actually face the White One. Speaking of him, was there any reason to tell Issei about him? Sure, he had to tell all his other hosts about the White One, because they were gonna have to face him sooner or later, but Issei won't be able to face him. They were stuck in another world, and if Drake was correct, and he definitely was, there was no way in either heaven or hell that the White One would be able to get to them unless they find a way to convince the bucking dragon gods. Those were the only beings, maybe a few gods as well, who would have the power to open portals or travel to different worlds. So they have all the time in the world, literally. Elena. You two must be hungry and tired. Issei. I guess I could go for a bite to eat. He then looked at Isabella. Issei, how about you, Isabella? Isabella. Issei Hyoudou, don't you find it strange? Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. What do you mean? Isabella. Why would they treat us slaves this nicely? Issei had to admit that it was kinda strange, they just met them and they were treating them with such kindness. Like, shouldn't they be suspicious? Shouldn't they be questioning them to see if they truly were humans or demons in disguise? Issei. I guess you're right, but if they wanted to harm us then they would have done that when we met Sophisas, or better yet allow those Red Dragon Squad knights to kill us. Isabella. So, what should we do? Issei. For now, let's just keep pretending and learn as much as we can. Isabella nodded her head. Just then one of the maids told the two to follow her, saying that she will take them to wash themselves up. They agreed and started to follow her, but both Isabella and Drake noticed that Elena was staring at the white-haired woman and the dragon's partner with a suspicious gaze. Drake. Partner. Issei. Something wrong? Greg. You can say that, keep your guard up. Issei. Gotcha, already doing that. Meanwhile, inside a throne room was Sophisas, his father Guro, the regent, and one other person who stood by the leader of the White Dragon Knights. On the sidelines were several people who stood silently as the 4 who had entered were now before His Majesty, the king of the human tribe. Unlike a regular king, the one before them was quite young, around maybe 11 or even younger than that if best. He had purple eyes and light brown hair, the front being longer than the back. The king smiled. King. Well done, no wonder you're the most respected warrior within the city walls. Since the negotiations with the Demon Queen have been completed, what would you like as a reward? The regent bowed to His Majesty. Regent. Thank you, Your Highness, for being able to fulfill your wishes and share your responsibilities satisfy me as is, I don't require any reward. Guro. Fulfilling wishes and sharing responsibilities. What the regent did is punishable with great offense. The regent gazed moved over to Guro who was standing next to him, a serious look in his eyes. Guro. His Highness requested that a contract should be signed with the demon tribe to come to a truce. The White Dragon Knights were also sent out to represent us. Guro's eyes moved to the regent, also growing a serious one. Guro. But the regent rushed ahead to the location to break the deal and execute the Demon Queen. Not only did His Highness's name become tainted by this man, but there will also be more severe repercussions in the near future. He then glared at the regent. Guro. If the missing queen returns to the demon tribe, she will engage in all-out war against us. The clash between the two tribes will result in nothing but the loss of our people. King. Teacher, you seem to be very passionate about this. But there must be other reasons for doing this. Regent. Your Highness, please allow me to present the full follow-up report of what happened. And so, the regent went on to say that after the two tribes decided to sign peace between the two tribes, he had received a secret letter from the Demon Queen's right hand Lillian. He went on to say that Lillian claimed to have received a significant amount of support from her own people. The regent continued and said that if they assisted her in dethroning Isabella, then Lillian will lead the demon tribe and form a stronger relationship between the opposing tribes. Regent. Now the demon tribe has already accepted her as their new ruler. The previous queen, Isabella, was labeled as missing after the skirmish, which resulted in the termination of the deal. The regent then took out an envelope and handed it to one of the servants. "Regent. The deal that Lillian and I agreed upon has all been stated clearly on this contract. Please may your highness review this document." The servant bowed and took the envelope to the king, handing it to him as he started to read it in silence. After a few seconds thought his eyes widened. "King. You've done well for the kingdom this time." "Hero. Your highness, the Osa clan has controlled the demon tribe for centuries now. How would a traitor like her overthrow the clan so easily and be crowned the new queen? There's clearly an issue here." The king merely looked at his teacher and gave him a reassuring smile, trying to calm him down, so nothing bad happens. "King. Teacher, you don't need to speak any further. I will allow the regent to carry out his plans however he wishes." "Hero. I understand." Meanwhile, back at the residence of Cephissus, the White Dragon Knights, in one of the bathrooms was Isabella, the demon queen who was currently taking a bath in some nice hot water. Steam filled the room due to the hot water, but it wasn't at the temperature that would sting someone's skin. Isabella stared at the ceiling above her in silence, a lot of things going through her mind at the moment. But she soon sighed and looked down at one of her hands, her human hands. "Isabella. Even if I go back to the demon tribe right now, they won't recognize me as their queen." She was in quite a predicament. What could she do? Issei told her that they had to gather as much information as possible before they thought about going to the demon tribe, but she doesn't have to do that. She just needs to get her power back. That's all she needs to do. Get her power back. "Isabella. Is it possible that I'll live out the rest of my days as a human?" Meanwhile, in another bathroom, in a different part of the household was Issei Hyoudou, who was sitting in a different bath. The boy had to say that it felt nice to relax after what he had just gone through, battling Riser Phenex, getting Isekai'd to another world, and saving Isabella from being killed. It was a little much for him right now. But he can't relax forever, he has a serious problem, and that was how was he supposed to get back home? Was it even possible for him to do something like that? He would ask Drake, but the words that the dragon said to him before are still repeating within the boy's mind. The magic in this world was completely different than his own, he had no idea how to even use it. Or if he could even at all. Issei. How am I meant to get back home? Drake. I'm sure you will find a way, partner. Issei. Thanks, Drake. A small smile grew on the brown-haired boy's face. Issei. I am so glad that I have you as a partner. Drake chuckled. Drake. Despite the perverted things I have seen in your memories, I am certainly glad to have you as my host. Issei Hyoudou. Issei chuckled as he turned his attention to the ring that brought him to this world. He wondered if he could use it to take him back to his world, since it was the thing that Isekai'd him in the first place. He couldn't test this hypothesis unless he fully understood the ring and its origins. To do that he needs to learn as much as he can about this new world. Maybe there was a library or something in the house that told stories about the things he needed to know. The building was certainly big enough for that. Normally, Issei would never think about doing something like that since back in his world, he never had a reason to read a book. Although, he doesn't have much of a choice in the matter, because if he has no knowledge of this world, then he was good as dead. He won't allow that to happen, he doesn't want to die again. The pain he went through. The heat. The cold. The pain. The numbness. He hated it, he didn't want to experience that feeling ever again. Issei. For now, I'll keep the ring until I can figure out what to do with it. With that, Issei picked the ring up and placed it on his ring finger, because that would be the only spot that he could place the damn thing. Issei Hyoudou. Issei perked up and looked over to see Cephissus. Issei. Oh, Cephissus. You've returned from TH. The brown-haired boy stopped what he was saying as his eyes widened for two reasons. First was the fact that there were numerous scars all over the captain's body, and by numerous he truly meant numerous. Cephissus. You're here too, let's bathe together. The second reason why Issei is shocked was that. Issei Drake. What the buck? Chapter 6. A little talk. What would be the correct words to explain how Drake and Issei were feeling right now? Unfortunately, there were none to express how shocked and speechless the two were right now. They have seen tons of weird things while being in this alternative world so far, things that are much different than their own. They were summoned by the Demon Queen because of some prophecy that said someone with the other magical ring would save the demon tribe. What else happened? Oh yeah, Issei had to watch as brave guards gave their lives for their queen's survival. People always say that they would love to be in an isekai because they get to have power, fame, women, and so much more. However, they fail to realize how dark things can be plus how unfair things are. This brings us to right now. Drake. Okay, what the buck? What the actual buck? Issei. Trust me, Drake. I'm in the same boat as you. Issei was still in the bath as he stared at Cephissus, the White Dragon Knight squad leader, who asked if it was alright for him to join the brown-haired boy. Issei doesn't have a problem with him, even though he was still gonna keep his guard up just in case. He doubted that he would be able to harm the squad leader, distract him, injure or kill him. Yeah, that's like asking someone if they could live in the mother-bucking sun. It's impossible. There was absolutely no way that he could take on Cephis's. He would have his head before the brown-haired boy could even blink. However, something didn't make sense to Issei, and that was he could have killed him when they first met each other, and yet why hasn't he yet? Does he really believe his story? Does Ephesus really think that both he and Isabella were slaves of the demon tribe? Something like that shouldn't even be possible. No one would believe a story like that. Hell, even Issei himself didn't believe it, and he was the one who came up with the dang backstory. Maybe he could have made it more believable than how he originally said it, but he was panicking and didn't want to die a second time. The boy was still suffering from the time he got killed by his so-called girlfriend Rainer, who only went out with him just to kill him at the end of the date. Now, he won't say that his death was terrible, since he was brought back to life just a few seconds after he died, but still. Also, he has seen in animes where characters die worse than he has, like take both Ace and Rengoku for example. They died in pretty shifty ways, and now, they both have become a meme of the anime world, and that is something that Issei doesn't want to happen to himself. Issei. Sure, Cephis's. With that, Cephis's approached the bath and stepped into it. This allowed Issei to get a better view of the various scars that were on his body. They weren't fresh ones, which meant that he received them from previous battles. Scars are something that Issei doesn't possess, but he does have the basic knowledge of what they mean. They determine two different things. One is if a person has involved themselves in self-harming, and the other is all the battles that a warrior has taken part in. From the look of things, Cephis's has been in a ton of battles in the past, and Issei could tell that he had gone through what felt like hell to get to where he is now. Issei. This dude, he's something else. Dreg. What do you mean, partner? Issei. Look at him, Dreg. He has all those scars, each from a past battle that could have been the end of him. Dreg fell silent at Issei's words. He wouldn't know what it feels like to carry scars, since dragons are known to have a high regeneration ability, which allows them to recover near instantly. Both Dreg and his rival are by far the strongest dragons in their world, only being rivaled by the dragon gods, and yet neither has experienced a scar of some kind. They were like yin and yang, the exact opposite of each other, and they cancelled out their abilities every single time they fought. Issei continued to gaze at Cephis's, wondering if he was gonna do anything since what Isabella said to him was still echoing throughout the boy's mind. Flashback. Isabella. Why would they treat us slaves this nicely? Flashback end. She was right about one thing, there had to be a reason why Cephis's was being too kind to both him and Isabella, even though they supposedly escaped from the demon tribe. Issei can't help but wonder if Cephis's actually believed his story about him and Isabella being slaves, or if he didn't believe it and was only trying to gather more information from them. Either could be a possibility. Issei can't rule out one or the other until he learns more about this new world. He also needs to find a way to get Isabella back to the demon tribe, retake the throne from her traitorous second-in-command, and find a way to get back to his world. He's gotta admit, the one who dethroned Isabella must have been planning it for some time now. But is it because they want power? Fame? Status? Why would they need that when they already had that as the second-in-command? This was starting to sound like a Starscream situation, but instead of killing the original ruler, they were still alive. Issei. Geez, didn't think I would have to deal with a Starscream-like person. Dreg. Who now? Issei. Oh yeah, you've never seen Transformers because you have been sealed away for many years. Dreg. Yeah, so who or what the hell is a Starscream? Issei. Well. I'm not really sure how to explain this to you, since you aren't one for technology. Dreg. Just tell me already. Issei. He's a spineless worm who wants to be the ruler of a faction. Dreg. That reminds me of someone. This gains Issei's attention. Issei. Really? Cephis's. Issei. Issei. The brown-haired boy turned his attention to the leader of the White Dragon Knight squad, making a mental note to ask Dreg who Dreg met that was like Starscream. Cephis's. Are you used to this place yet? Issei wasn't sure why, but he felt very uncomfortable right now, and it wasn't just him because Dreg was also feeling uncomfortable, and he doesn't even have a physical body anymore. Maybe it was because of how Cephis's was speaking, the way he was looking at him, or maybe it was the strange pink and flower-like background that was appearing out of nowhere. Actually, Issei had seen something similar to that before in his world, and it was caused by a certain blonde-haired boy from his school. Hyoudou. Anytime Issei saw him he would always have these weird sparkles that just appear out of nowhere, and that distracted Issei so damn much. This makes Issei wonder, now he could be completely wrong about this theory, since he has no knowledge of either of them, but are Kiba and Cephis's the same? Like, the same person? Is Kiba in this other world too? Now, well, this theory sounds and is basically ridiculous. Issei can't rule out the possibility that he isn't the only one who got sent to this world, for all he knows there may be someone from his world here as well. The only difference would be how they got to the other world. Issei was summoned thanks to the ring on his finger. Could they be another way? Another question is, what is the time difference between the two worlds? Are they the same? Is one fast than the other? Issei could very well be stuck in this new world for years and only a day pass back in his world. All these theories are possibilities, one is neither wrong nor correct until he finds the answers he seeks. Issei. I'm starting to settle in nicely, thank you for asking. Sufisa smiled slightly. Sufisa. Then it's fine, I'll dispatch people tomorrow to search for your families. Issei fell silent as he blinked. Issei. Shit, he cleared his throat. Issei. Why you want to help us find our families? Sufisa. That's right, but the information that you two have provided is too little to go on. Issei. No shit, I made all that shit up. Sufisa. Can you remember any more information regarding your relatives? Issei started to sweat a little, but it wasn't noticeable. This wasn't good, he needed to come up with something and fast before he ends up getting both himself and Isabella exposed. It was time to put on an act, good thing he had had years of practice. Issei sighed sadly. Issei. Unfortunately no, all my past memories are a bit hazy, maybe it's cause of how long I was a slave, or maybe I suffered some kind of concussion. Sufisa fell silent as his gaze moved from Issei to the water, after a solid minute passed he let out a small sigh. Sufisa. I have a little brother, around your age. He was captured 12 years ago by the demon tribe, I haven't seen him since. Issei. You had a brother, what was his name? Sufisa looked at Issei. Sufisa. His name was Sophisak, do you know him by any chance? Issei wasn't sure whether he should confirm or deny Sufisa's question, he wasn't sure if he actually had a brother or if he was just saying that to try and get information out of him. But it could go either way, maybe he does have one or maybe he doesn't have one. He doesn't know and gets the feeling he will never know what the Sophisak was like unless he says something. Issei scratched the back of his head. Issei, sorry Sufisa. But there were a lot of slaves, plus we weren't really allowed to talk, so I couldn't really ask for names. Sufisa. What normally happens when a person is captured? Issei. Since we're slaves, abuse and beatings were a regular thing. Many were split up into different categories, like I was forced to work in the kitchen. Issei soon fell silent when he noticed Sufisa's upset expression, he doubts it is because he feels bad for him. No, the squad leader is probably upset because he didn't get any information about his supposed young brother's whereabouts, and that makes Issei feel bad. Sufisa. I just hope that he's still alive to this day, that way we'll have a chance to reunite. Issei placed a hand on Sufisa's shoulder, causing the man to look at the brown-haired boy. Issei. I'm sure you will one day, Sufisa. You just got to have hope. Sufisa sighed. Sufisa. I hope that after the peace treaty was signed, we could request for a release of all human captives. Issei. Wait, didn't we just attack their tribe? Won't that cause them to execute the slaves? The White Dragon squad leader shook his head as he grew an expression of hatred and annoyance. Sufisa. The regent said that the demon tribe already has a new queen, Lillian. Issei narrowed his eyes when he heard that name, the name of the person who betrayed Isabella and took almost all of her power away. Issei wasn't surprised that she already took the throne and became ruler of the demon tribe, he already had a feeling that she would do it. Sufisa. The two tribes did come to a peace agreement, it's just that. Issei. Just what, Captain? Sufisa. The only person that can negotiate with the demon tribe now is the regent. Issei. I see. Issei doesn't trust the regent, the dude was a warlord and you should never trust one of those because that will only end up coming back to bite you in the butt. In fact, Issei trusted the regent as far as Drake could throw him and that was non-existent since the dragon has no body. Issei. I don't trust that bastard. Drake. Agreed, he's planning something. Issei silently scoffed to himself. Issei. Typical antagonist, always plotting. Drake. Agreed, partner. Issei. Your father and the regent disagree on many things, it must be difficult for you to gain help from the regent. Sufisa nodded his head. Sufisa. That's correct. Sufisa. My father is his highness's teacher, but my father is also his most trusted. My father had held his tongue because of being his highness's subordinate, if that wasn't the case, then the regent wouldn't have killing intent. Greg. Hess got a point, partner. Why would the regent help someone who's trying to befriend the enemy? Issei. Warlords are full of surprises, Dreg. The brown-haired boy scratched the back of his head in annoyance, this whole situation was so damn complicated. However, Issei can't let this bother him right now because he had more important matters to think about. Issei. I'm gonna be real with you Sufisa, I don't know shit about what goes on between your father and the regent but I do know something. Sufisa. What is that? Issei looked at the man and grew a small smirk. Issei. Don't let this get to you, I bet you anything that karma is gonna be in our favor and when that happens you'll be reunited with your brother. Sufisa remained silent as he stared at the boy who just grinned, the White Dragon Knight squad leader's eyes slightly widened as he saw one of Issei's eyes glow green. Sufisa wasn't sure why, but he felt like there was something special about Issei and he wasn't sure what. He recalled seeing the burnt ground when he scared off the red dragon knights. It looked fresh, which meant that whoever burned it must have given off a tremendous amount of heat. No mere fire spell could do something like that, not even high-ranking ones were able to do that level of damage. What he saw was from something that burned the very ground itself by merely existing. Issei placed a hand on Issei's shoulder, surprising the boy as he saw the man giving him a small smile. Issei. Thank you for your kind words. Issei returned the smile and nodded his head. Issei. In the future, you don't have to call me captain or team leader. Simply call me Issei. Issei. Okay then. Silence. Greg. Seriously, am I the only one who is seeing the sparkles? Chapter 7. Peaceful slumber. Worry. Concern. Despair. These were the emotions that Rias Gremory was currently feeling, the emotions that have been weighing over her head for some time now. It wasn't just her who was feeling like this, she was not the only one down in the dumps as one would say. Asia, Kiba, Akeno, and even Kaneko haven't been the same since they saw their comrade and friend, Issei Hyoudou, fall through the void. The fear in his eyes was the only memory that the devils could recall, seeing play throughout their minds like a video stuck in an infinite loop. Around 2 months have passed, a solid 2 months have passed since the raiding game and the engagement ceremony between Rias Gremory and Riser Phenex. The actions of Issei Hyoudou had shaken the underworld to its core, never had anyone witnessed the power of the Red Dragon Emperor before, and they shall never again. His disappearance brought great worry to many, including his friends and family, who hoped that nothing terrible had happened to the brown-haired boy. To a few of the devils, like the council on the other hand, all they cared about was the fact they had just lost their secret weapon against the angels and fallen angels. Surziches and the other members of the 4 great satans couldn't wrap their heads around the council's choice of worry. Why should they worry about having a weapon? Issei Hyoudou was no weapon, he was a living and breathing boy who was doing what he could to help someone in need. Rias blamed herself ever since that day. She has not stopped blaming what had happened to Issei. How could she not when it was because of her that he ended up like that? If only she had not gotten Issei involved with the supernatural world. If she had done something else, maybe he would still be in Kuo, living a happy life, away from any kind of worry. His disappearance has also affected the other students of Kuo Academy, mainly his 2 friends Motohama and Mitsuda, who were a part of the group that they and Issei made. The Perverted Trio they were called, the enemy of all women. But that is all over now, they have gone through many changes since their friend's disappearance. Motohama, the boy with the glasses, gave up being a pervert and became something that shocks even the teachers. He was now cold, calculated, and more intelligent, and a mere glance sends shivers down people's spines. Hell, even Sona Citri does not want to mess with the boy because, as she puts it, there is no life in those eyes, it's like staring at nothing at all. Mitsuda is similar to Motohama, but in a completely different way. He has turned into a delinquent who skips classes, gets into numerous fights, and verbally harasses all the girls in the school. He even knocked a teacher out cold with a single punch, which threw him in jail for a short while. All because Issei Hyoudou had gone missing. One bad event has turned 2 of the most hated boys in the entire school into something else entirely. Currently, a group of girls was minding their own business, walking around the school and chatting about random things. Girl 1. So, what are you girls gonna do later today? Girl 2. Not sure. Maybe head over to the park and stare at the clouds. Girl 3. That sounds boring, why not come over to my house? Girl 2. The last time I did, your mother would stop looking at my ass. Before the girl could finish her sentence, she was cut off when one of the male students landed in front of them. This caused them all to jump back in surprise and fear, seeing as their peer was covered in marks and bruises. Boy. Ow, that bucking stung. The group of girls gulped in fear when they saw the state of the boy. There was only one person in the entire school who would cause such harm like that, and they slowly looked up to see him. Mitsuda, a former member of the Perverted Trio. The sight of the delinquent and his serious expression caused the girls to gulp in fear, slowly backing away in hopes that they don't become his next victim. After he changed, he became feared throughout the school, as many started calling him things like demon, which the boy gladly accepts because he doesn't allow anyone to call him by his real name. Mitsuda turned to 3 more students who were with the one who got knocked to the ground. Mitsuda. Alright, who next? Boy 2. You bucking bastard, just because you got a fancy title doesn't make ya. Before the thug could even finish his sentence, Mitsuda decided to spare his poor ears the pain of some pointless monologue and dropkick the student in the face. This promptly sent the thug flying back and crashing into the ground, the other 2 remaining boys turning and staring at their friend with shocked expressions. Boy 3. Bro, what the hell? Before the other male student could say anything else, they were interrupted by Mitsuda, who took both of them out with no effort at all. The light gray-haired boy did this by kicking the first thug in the face, knocking him back before getting on the other's shoulders and slamming the other into the ground. Both. Arg. He then glared at the male student who laid on the ground, beaten and bruised. Mitsuda. What have I told you buckers about getting in my way? The male student slowly gulped in fear as he tried his best not to cry. Boy 1. And not 2. Mitsuda. And what did you do? Boy 1. I got in your wa. Mitsuda cut the student off by stomping on his face with immense force, causing a small crater to form from the impact and knocking the poor student out with a single strike. But did he stop? Nope. Mitsuda. Never. Stomp. Mitsuda. Get. Stomp. Mitsuda. In. Stomp. Mitsuda. My. Stomp. Mitsuda. Way. But that last stomp, the delinquent launched the poor boy into a wall. He soon grumbled in annoyance as he began dusting himself off, yet another fight that ended up the same as they always do. Mitsuda. About time this bucking place taught these idiots something. The delinquent then noticed the group of girls, causing them to shy from his gaze. Mitsuda. The buck are you looking at, bitches? Girls. And nothing. Mitsuda turned to them and started to crack his knuckles. Mitsuda. Well, unless you want to join that dumbus I suggest you start running. He tilted his head as he grew a grin that looked like something out of a horror movie. Mitsuda. My fists are rated E for everyone. Hearing this was enough motivation for the group of girls to turn and hightailed it, not wanting to suffer the same fate as their peers. Mitsuda watched them run, flee like the cowards they were, and it enraged him. What did they do when Issei went missing? What did they do when his closest friend, his buddy, his comrade, his ally, the one person he trusted the most? What did they do? Did they go out and search for him? Did they do everything in their power to try and find the brown-haired boy? No. They cheered, they celebrated, and they screamed in victory that they had one less pervert to worry about. The girls felt like Issei deserved whatever happened to him, stating that he shouldn't have peeped at them. This enraged Mitsuda. How dare they laugh like that? They'll make them pay. They all will pay. Mitsuda. Don't worry, Issei. The light gray-haired boy grew a vicious grin, his eyes seemingly glowing with a menacing aura. Mitsuda. They won't be laughing soon. Meanwhile with Issei. Nighttime had risen over Sophisa's residence. The once bright blue sky had changed into a dark blue, almost pitch-black void, with the only light being the stars that dotted around and illuminated it. Issei Hyoudou, who had finished with his bath, was following the head maid, still wearing the cloak that Sophisa's gave him when the two first met each other. They haven't given the boy any new clothes yet, which kinda annoys him. He swears that half of the time he's been in this new world, he's been nothing but almost naked. Although, that doesn't seem to bother the maid who he was currently following. Elena, he was pretty sure her name was, she felt kinda off to Issei, despite reminding him of the maid who serves Ria's family. Drake was right, he should keep his guard up even though both he and Isabella should be quote-unquote safe while in the human tribe. Who knows what could happen, one wrong move and it shall be the end of Issei. Elena soon stopped in front of a door, turning around and looking at Issei. Elena. Mr. Issei Hyoudou, this is your room. Issei. Oh, thank you for guiding me here. The brown-haired boy bowed a little, making the maid smile back at him. Elena. I hope you rest early, mister. With that, Elena turned and began to walk off. Issei watched as she left, and normally it would be because she was a very hot woman with some decent breasts, but that wasn't the case right now. He was waiting to see if she was gonna do something when he wasn't looking, like peek around the corner at him. If he was being brutally honest with himself, he couldn't trust anyone from this world, and that included Isabella. The only one he could trust was Drake, not because he and the dragon were partners or living in the same body. He trusted Drake because at least he would give Issei information and tell him things, while those from this world would hide secrets. After a solid minute or two, Issei let out a small sigh. Issei. Looks like the coast is clear, Drake. For the most part, but I still wouldn't drop your guard. Issei nodded his head as he grabbed the doorknob, turned it, and opened the door to the place he shall be staying for the time being. Although, when he was about to go inside his eyes widened in shock and surprise, and a crimson-red blush grew across his face, as he wasn't the only one in the room. Isabella was also there, slowly putting on some new clothes that were given to her by the maids no doubt. This meant that they threw away Issei's outfit, much to the boy's annoyance, because he would have preferred to get that back. Sure, he could get another when he got back to his world, but that had his favorite red shirt. Anyways, Isabella changing in front of him has given Issei the opportunity to check out her body, which was easily better than both Ria's and Akeno's, if he were to say. Maybe it's because she was more mature than them, but he could be completely wrong on that part. Issei. Isabella, what are you doing in my room? The demon queen quickly put her new top on, gritting her teeth in either anger or annoyance, as a blush grew across her face. She then grabbed Issei by the cloak and dragged him inside the room, closing the door behind him quickly, which caused a slightly loud slamming noise. Isabella. Idiot, don't call me by my actual name, we're being watched. Issei. You mean Sophisa's? That can't be right, I was having a chat with him like 30 minutes ago. Isabella. I was talking about the maid. Hearing this shocked Issei, was it Elena? How was that possible? Issei stuck around out there to make sure that she wasn't doing something like that. While Issei lacks in skills, Drake makes up for that by being able to sense things for him. Why did the Welsh dragon not warn the boy about the maid? Is it because this is a different world? Can Drake not sense anything, even if they were merely people and animals? They were already unable to pick up any magical power, don't tell them that they can't do a simple thing like that. That would mean that Issei was out of place, he was blind as a bat. Issei. Elena, how is that possible? Before I came in I stayed out there to make sure no one was watching. Isabella. Well, you failed on that. She has been watching us since the moment we stepped foot onto this property. We're still demon slaves, they won't have the audacity to fully trust us. Issei gritted his teeth slightly, he should have known better. There was a small part of him, a tiny voice in the back of his that truly wanted to trust them. Looks like he should have killed that voice. Issei. Then why did they put us in the same room? Greg. I believe it's because of your story, partner. Issei. Huh? What do you mean? Greg. You told them that you and Isabella were married, so. Greg didn't need to finish the sentence, Issei instantly got what he was talking about and it caused the boy to facepalm himself in annoyance. Issei. And I made things worse by telling them that we're married. Isabella. If they find out that we've been lying the entire time, they're definitely going to think that we have something to do with the demon tribe. Just then, Isabella's gaze moved to the door once again as she narrowed her eyes. Isabella. There's someone outside. Issei looked at the door as he gritted his teeth, no doubt it was Elena from what Isabella said. If the maid was spying on both of them, maybe Sophisa's had something to do with it. On the other side of the door was in fact Elena, the maid leaned in and placed her ear on the door, as if she were listening for something inside the door. However, she was only greeted by silence which confused her cause she could have sworn she heard Issei and his wife saying something. She kept on listening for a solid minute until she finally heard something, the sound of light snoring, which meant that the married couple has gone to bed. But what confused her was how fast they were sleeping, not even 5 minutes ago they were talking like they were full of energy. And now, they were sleeping. Something didn't feel right for Elena, but it was not her place to invade the privacy of the guest that her master invited. With that, she turned and began to walk away from the room. Her footsteps echoed throughout the hall as she went around the corner and disappeared, slowly the door opened as Issei looked out. The brown-haired boy checked his surroundings firmly and quickly, not wasting a single second as he searched for where Elena was located. But he didn't see the maid in sight, it looked like she had left to go do some other business. Isabella. Is she gone? Issei slowly closed the door and looked at the demon queen, nodding his head. Issei. Yeah. She's gone. I guess she bought the fake sleeping bait. Isabella nodded her head in agreement, originally she thought that Issei was gonna do something perverted like pretend that the two of them were having sex. The demon queen still thinks that the boy is pretty much worthless since so far had not proven her wrong. But she hasn't forgotten what she saw when the Red Dragon Knights had them surrounded, the immense heat and bloodlust that came from Issei. Isabella had never met a human with such bloodlust before, not even what the regent did to his own son could be compared to what she witnessed. This leaves her with a burning question. Who is Issei? How did he have such bloodlust? What was that eye she saw? Why did he give off such immense heat? Issei. So, what do we do now? Isabella. For now, we should get some sleep. She turned to the bed as Issei approached it as well, the boy couldn't wait to get some good night's sleep. He deserved it after all the bullshit he had to go through so far, he needs it. However, Isabella soon stopped Issei by glaring at him. Isabella. You sleep on the floor, I'll take the bed. Issei's jaw nearly struck the ground from what the demon queen said. Issei. What, how is that fair? Isabella. I do not care, but, Isabella. I'm warning you, if you do anything to me while I sleep, I'll wipe your existence from this planet. Issei felt a shiver being sent down his spine as he reluctantly sighed and sat on the ground, crossing his arms in annoyance. Issei. Real funny coming from you, a tiger who has no fangs. Isabella. You can try if you have the balls. With that, the demon queen picked up the covers and got into the bed. Issei shook his head as he grabbed the cloak he has been wearing for a while and spread it out. He then managed to get a nearby blanket and cover his legs. He may not be able to sleep in the bed, but at least what he made was something he could sleep on for the time being. Issei then remembered something and looked over at Isabella. Issei. Hey Isabella. Isabella. What? Issei. Since you summoned me to this world, you should be able to send me back, right? The demon queen merely stared at the boy in silence before letting out a small sigh. Isabella. I don't know how to cast those spells, even the high priest wouldn't know how to send you back. Issei. Oh, I see. With that, Issei's gaze moved from Isabella to the hand that had the golden ring on it. Was it actually a spell that brought him to this new world, or did it have something to do with the ring? The ring had to be important if it was able to travel to a completely different world and transport someone back, that alone would make the ring a universal item. Although, he feels like there is more to the ring than meets the eye. Issei wasn't sure what though, he was just getting a bad feeling from it. Like there was something about it that was setting off his primal instincts, telling him to get rid of it. Issei. Drake, are you getting the same feeling that I am? Drake. Indeed I am partner, but I am not sure why I'm feeling like this. It looks like an ordinary ring. Issei. Despite the fact it came to our world and transported us here. Drake. Yes, despite that. Actually, now that Issei thought about it. If what Isabella said was true about there being a prophecy and whatnot. How did the ring teleport Drake with him? He knows that the dragon is basically like a part of his soul, but if he thinks about it the ring should have only transported him and him alone. Maybe it had something to do with the prophecy, maybe whoever came to this world wasn't meant to be alone. Not in the sense that multiple people would come with them, the prophecy never said they had to be human or had something part of their soul. Issei let out a sigh as he scratched the back of his head was hurting from all the questions flooding it. Issei. We should get some sleep. Issei looked over at Isabella, and when he did he stopped talking as he saw the white-haired woman's eyes closed. Did she already fall asleep? Issei. Isabella. Silence. Issei. Isabella. Silence. Issei. Wow, she's actually asleep. Issei stood up and slowly approached the Demon Queen, smiling at the sight of the sleeping beauty. He then grabbed the covers and slowly covered her, making sure that she was nice and tucked in. He then heard Drake chuckle. Drake. Well, this is a surprise. Issei. What? Drake. I expected you to be drooling at the sight of her breast, wanting to grope them. But what you just did was very mature of you. Issei rolled his eyes as he walked back to his makeshift bed and sat down on it, his gaze looking at the window as he saw the night sky. Issei. I don't have time for that, Drake. We gotta get back home. Meanwhile in another part of Sophisa's residence, the leader of the White Dragon Knights stood at a window and stared at the town which resided within the capital. He had the same expression he always had, but he soon heard his bedroom door open and close behind him. Master, Sophisa's. Did you spy on them? The white-haired man slowly looked behind him, seeing none other than Elena, the head maid who had just returned from spying on Issei and Isabella. Elena bowed slightly. Elena. Yes, since they recently came from the demon tribe. Sophisa's. I see, thank you, Elena. Elena. Master, I don't understand. This is the first time you brought back any quest home. Sophisa's fell silent as Elena felt like she shouldn't have said that. She was about to correct herself, but the White Dragon Knight squad leader beat her to it. Sophisa's. When I saw him, I felt this unnatural bond between him and me almost like family. Suddenly, the image of Sophisa's younger brother Sophisak flashed through his mind. It was a memory that he had kept for a very long time, the last time he ever saw his younger brother's smile. Sophisa's. He might just be Sophisak. A small smile grew on Sophisa's face, surprising Elena cause it has been a very long time since she saw her master smile. She slowly placed a hand on his cheek, gaining his attention as he looked at the maid who smiled at him with a blush on her face. Elena. Elena hasn't seen her master smile in a really long time. Sophisa's placed a hand on one of Elena's. Sophisa's. Are you happy on my behalf? Elena. Before the maid knew what happened next, she blinked and she was on Sophisa's bed pinned by the leader of the White Dragon Knights himself. Sophisa's loomed over the maid and smiled at her. Sophisa's. Elena, don't leave tonight. The maid's face grew redder as she nodded her head. Elena. Chapter 8. The Decision. Fire. Smoke. Brimstone. The sight was almost otherworldly as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart. The air was thick with ash and smoke, making it hard to breathe. The ground was hot to the touch, and the sound of the volcano's rumbling was deafening. It was as if the earth itself was in agony, and the only way it could express it was through this apocalyptic display of destruction. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but charred, lifeless land. The once bustling ecosystem had been reduced to nothing but ash and cinder. The absence of greenery was stark, and the lack of any animal life was eerie. It was as if this place had been cursed, and anything that had once thrived here had been eradicated. The thunder and lightning added to the chaos, illuminating the destruction in brief blinding flashes. It was a reminder of the power of nature. In this barren wasteland, it was clear that nothing was a match for the sheer force of the elements. Overall, the scene was a haunting reminder of the destructive power of nature and the importance of respecting it. It was a bleak and hopeless place, but it served as a warning to those who dared to think they could control the world around them. Issei abruptly woke up and found himself in a strange and unfamiliar place. The surroundings were so different from what he was used to that he felt like he was transported to another world. He felt a searing heat emanating from the ground that caused sharp stings on his feet, but to his surprise, he did not feel any excruciating pain. He wondered why he felt so numb to the heat and the barren landscape around him. Taking tentative steps, Issei began exploring the unfamiliar terrain. Everything seemed so desolate that it was hard for him to identify his location. He decided to reach out to his companion, Drake, hoping to get some answers. Issei. Hey, Drake, do you know what this place is? Silence. Issei. Drake. Silence again. Issei tried calling out to Drake again, but there was only deafening silence. This was unusual for Drake, who had always responded quickly whenever Issei called out to him. Issei's anxiety grew as he began to realize that he was entirely alone in an unknown place. As he was about to voice his fear, a thunderous roar filled the air, causing him to cover his ears in pain. The roar was so loud that it caused the ground to tremble and the lava to spew out of the cracks. Issei was terrified as he watched the molten lava come dangerously close to him. He could feel fear slowly creeping up his spine, but he tried his best to calm himself down. He could not afford to panic in such a dangerous situation. He wondered what could have caused such a deafening noise and why Drake was not responding to him. Issei was in a state of confusion and fear, and he had no idea what would happen next. Issei suddenly became aware of a looming shadow, causing him to gulp in fear. He slowly turned his head, hoping to see his partner Drake, but instead, he saw a massive dragon. The creature was around the same size or slightly bigger than Drake, but much scarier looking. Its black scales were darker than a solar eclipse and had cracks that glowed like molten lava. The beast had a crown-like formation of horns on its head, and the most terrifying thing about it was the four piercing eyes staring directly at Issei, as if they were seeing right through him. It was a creature that looked like it came straight out of a fantasy and horror franchise crossover. Issei had never seen anything like it before and felt a shiver run down his spine at the sight of it. Issei. That's not Drake. Sure, he just stated the obvious, but that was just Issei's way of trying to remain calm in the situation he was currently in. In fact, he had absolutely no idea what he should do. The dragon's claws pressed onto the ground, causing numerous cracks to appear as lava slowly rose like water filling a boat with a hole in its hull. It suddenly let out a deafening roar which made him once again cover his ears from how loud it was, and Issei soon realized that it was about to attack him. He tried to move, but his body froze from fear which filled the boy with even more panic. The boy started to scream internally at himself, trying to get his body moving as the massive monster made its attack attempt and lunged toward him. Issei. Please move, run, do something, anything. Issei observed as the dragon's massive jaws drew ever so closer to the boy, but right before they were about to clamp down upon Issei and devour his miserable existence. A miracle happened, an event that Issei has never experienced once in his entire life. Issei's eyes shot open as he quickly sat up, panting heavily as he had woken up in his makeshift bed, drenched in a cold sweat. Issei. Fucking hell, I swear I saw the other side for a split second. He let out a sigh of relief, realizing that it was just a nightmare. However, the image of the terrifying dragon was still fresh in his mind, making him uneasy. He began to take a few deep breaths to calm himself down, trying to shake off the feeling of fear. Issei had to remind himself that it was just a dream and that he needed to focus on the reality of the situation at hand. He let out a small sigh. Issei. Fucking hell. Everyone, alright? Partner? You seem tensed. Issei perked up as he turned his attention to his arm, his left one to be exact, and saw a familiar glowing green gem on it, which caused the boy to grow a small smile of relief. Issei. Yeah, I'm alright, Drake. Just had a nightmare was all. This gained the Welsh dragon's attention. He's connected to Issei and yet he has not seen this so-called nightmare that he speaks of, and he would be the first to know. Drake. What nightmare? I'm looking through memories and I don't notice anything. Issei. What? How can you not see them? Drake. I'm not sure but I'll look into it for you. Issei nodded his head, just then he noticed something, and that was the fact that he didn't hear Isabella. He looked over to the bed and saw that she wasn't there, this confused him, and he raised an eyebrow. Issei. Where's Isabella? Issei stood up and crossed his arms, the bed was neatly done, which means that she must have gotten up earlier when he was still sleeping. As he was thinking to himself, Issei heard the door open and close behind him. Mr. Issei Hyoudou. Hearing the sudden voice caused the brown-haired boy to perk up as he looked behind him and saw the headmaid Elena. Issei put on a friendly smile, not wanting to be suspicious. Issei. Ah, Sister Elena. Good morning, Elena. I hope you slept well. Issei. I slept fine, thank you for asking. Issei's attention was soon drawn to the bundle of clothes in her arms. He quickly realized that they belonged to him, but the sight filled him with mixed emotions. It meant that he wouldn't be getting back his school uniform anytime soon, and that really sucked because his favorite shirt was in there. Issei. Oh, are these for me? Elena nodded her head as she handed Issei the bundle of clothes. Elena. This outfit was specially picked out by Master Sophisas for you. This surprised Issei, Sophisas picked this for him. He was not expecting to hear that at all. The leader of the White Dragon Knight squad must be really trying to be friendly with him, or maybe this was just a trick of some kind. He wasn't sure, but he guessed there was no reason why he should at least wear the outfit, since it's better than wearing nothing. Issei. Thank you, Sister Elena. Issei proceeded to put on the outfit and was pleasantly surprised by how soft and well-fitting it was. The colors, white and gold, were not exactly his style, as he preferred outfits with some red in them. However, he couldn't deny that he looked decent in it. Elena noticed Issei's hesitation and smiled warmly. Elena. It suits you. Elena. It suits you. Issei. So this is what they wear in this world. A small smile spread across Issei's face as he looked down at the outfit. Issei, thank you Elena. But I have a question. Elena raised an eyebrow in curiosity. Elena. Oh. And what might that be? Issei. Do you know where my wife is? I don't know where she is, and I'm starting to worry. Elena's expression softened and she gave Issei a reassuring smile. Elena. Miss Isabella and my master are training in the garden. Would you like to come along? At the mention of Isabella's name, Issei's worry grew. What was his wife doing training with Cephissus? He couldn't help but wonder if Isabella might accidentally reveal herself as the Demon Queen. However, he knew he couldn't jump to conclusions. Isabella was smart and knew the risks. Besides, if anything happened to her, Issei would never be able to return home and see his loved ones again. Issei and Elena left the bedroom and made their way down the hallway. Issei took the opportunity to observe his surroundings more closely. When they had first arrived, he was too tired from the long journey and too taken aback by Cephissus' impressive estate to pay attention. As they walked outside, Issei saw a stunning garden before him. It was enormous and breathtaking, and he knew he would have gotten lost if Elena hadn't been showing him around. Soon, Issei spotted someone in the distance. Issei. Oh, there's Cephissus. From the distance, it was difficult to tell what Cephissus was doing, but it appeared that he was practicing archery. The white-haired man fired an arrow toward the target, hitting it directly in the middle. Issei was surprised by this, but he really shouldn't be because he already knew that Cephissus was a skilled individual. Issei. Wow, you're certainly skilled, Cephissus. Cephissus turned and looked toward Issei, growing a small smile. Cephissus, thank you Issei. Do you want to have a go? Issei scratched the back of his head, trying to conceal his nervousness. The idea of him doing archery seemed like a joke. He chuckled nervously at the thought of it. He knew he lacked the skills and experience required for the sport. In fact, he didn't excel in anything, which made him hesitate even more. How could he possibly succeed in archery and not make fun of himself? Issei. Nah, I'm not talented enough to do something like that. Cephissus. Is that so? Yibei is pretty talented. Cephissus and Issei's attention was caught by Isabella's archery practice, which was happening a few feet away from where they were standing. The Demon Queen was also honing her archery skills. As Isabella focused on hitting the target, the White Dragon Knight squad leader watched her intently, narrowing his eyes. She released the arrow, and it flew straight, hitting the center of the target in between two other arrows, demonstrating her precision and skill. Issei. Even though her powers are gone, she is still pretty skilled. A drop of sweat ran down the boy's face. If this was Isabella without any of her powers, then he wouldn't want to know what she'll be like if she gained all her powers. Elena approached the two boys, her hands positioned together as her eyes were closed. Elena. Master, breakfast is ready. Cephissus smiled. Cephissus. Thank you, Elena. The maid bowed as she walked over to Isabella, letting her know that breakfast was ready as well. She nodded her head as she wandered over to the table along with Issei, Cephissus, and Elena. When they arrived they sat down, Cephissus on one side and both Issei and Isabella on the other, due to the fact they were quote-unquote married. Cephissus. You two lived with the demon tribe for so long, are you used to living like this yet? Issei scratched the back of his head, while Isabella was calmly sipping on some tea that was made by Elena. Issei. I'm slowly getting there, it's better than what I'm used to. He didn't want to be rude, since they have been so nice to both him and Isabella. But Issei simply can't trust them, he needs to leave the capital and try to find a way to get Isabella's powers back. Issei. You've helped us a lot, but we can't keep bothering you guys. Cephissus merely smiled as he wiped his mouth with a purple cloth. Cephissus. Don't feel that way, you can live here if you want. I've already assigned Elena to you too, she'll teach you how to live comfortably in the kingdom again. Elena smiled at the two as Issei gave a false smile. Internally he was not so happy, because that just made a massive hole in Issei's plan. The brown-haired boy didn't really have a foolproof one yet, he was only trying to get Isabella and himself out of the capital as quickly as he could. Issei. Well, that puts a dent in my PL. Isabella. We just want to be able to live on our own again, we don't want to bring you any more trouble. Issei blinked in surprise as his eyes darted over to Isabella. Did she read his mind or something? Did she actually, or did she just say that to throw Cephissus off? Cephissus placed his hands together as he rested them on the table. Cephissus. It's no trouble, in fact, we wish that you will pull your weight for the kingdom. Issei. How? Cephissus. Well, we can arrange work for you. But, even if you two wanted to just stay and work here, it would be fine. He then grew a gentle smile as Issei saw those strange sparkles once again. Seriously, how the hell was that happening? Cephissus. I would love to taste Issei's cooking. Issei. First, I am bucked. Second. Seriously, those sparkles. Greg. I know, they're driving me insane. Isabella. Enough. Isabella slammed her hands onto the table as she stood up. Issei. Did she hear us? Isabella. I'd rather go back to the demon plains if I have to work in the kitchen for the rest of my life. Issei started to sweat a little. He swears if Isabella does something to blow their cover then they are booked. He won't be able to protect her, especially since they would have to face Ephisas, who was not only more skilled in combat but has more battle experience than Issei. Ephisas. What are you on about, Ibe? Isabella. I've heard about the way the kingdom treats its people when I was in the demon tribe. Issei decided to remain quiet since he had absolutely no idea about this world's history, so he should just sit back and listen to all this, and boy, it was something special. Turns out in the past, the humans of this world were terrorized due to their weak and frail form. The other species of the world preyed upon them like wolves hunting a flock of sheep, and due to the constant aggression, they had to find a way to defend themselves. So the humans of the past ventured out and searched for something or someone to help them, and they did. They found a dragon of immense power and begged the legendary creature to watch over them. Issei didn't get much information about what they had to do for the beast, but somehow they convinced the dragon and it started to aid the humans. It protected them as they constructed their towns and cities, building their walls and defenses. But the dragon knew that they would require more than simple swords to defeat beings such as demons, so it taught them magic as well. That was why there were groups known as the Dragon Knights. They honored their savior by representing it as their emblems. The king has 7 armies, each of them having a different color of the original dragon emblem. The 2 strongest armies were the Black Dragon Knights and the Red Dragon Knights. The armies that protected the 4 walls of the city were the Purple Dragon Knights, Teal Dragon Knights, Amber Dragon Knights, and Ash Dragon Knights. However, the White Dragon Knights are the king's personal cavalry. It was only put into action when a civil dealer celebration is in place. If a person wanted to escape poverty, the best way was to join the army and work themselves there. However, there were only 2 ways of joining the army. The first was to work yourself up from training and prove that you are worthy of joining. The second way was to gain a diploma from the honored school within the capital. Said school had a constant flow of its graduates sent to the king ever since it was established. Legend says that the headmaster of the school, Vasily Andrei, was around 500 years old. They say that he's experienced with all of the plane's magical spells and had reached a godly level of power. There was also another rumor that said that all of the teachers of the school combined could take out an army of 10,000 soldiers by themselves. Issei's mind was blown away by the vast amount of information that he had just absorbed. He was left completely speechless, and that was quite a feat considering he had a mighty dragon by his side, whose power level was rumored to be capable of slaying even the most powerful gods. Isabella. I want to be a student within the honored school. It doesn't matter if I have to learn sword or magic. She narrowed her eyes. Isabella. I want to become stronger. Ephisas remained silent as he took in all the information that he had just been given. Issei remained quiet as well, wondering what the leader was gonna say. Ephisas. Are you dead set on making this decision? Isabella gritted her teeth. Isabella. I want revenge. Hearing this caused Issei to internally panic because he never said anything about revenge. Isabella may have just blown their cover. Ephisas. Revenge. Issei quickly and silently gulped to himself. He had to think of something and fast or else he was pretty much bucked. Issei. Why yeah, we want revenge. We have been oppressed by the demon tribe for so long, the only way we're gonna get rid of them is by killing them off after training. Ephisas. If that's your reason, I won't let you join the school. Issei. Why not? Ephisas sighed a little as he stood up from his chair. Ephisas. Battling isn't as easy as you think. Why don't you settle down here, we'll find your family. Issei gritted his teeth as he stood up. Issei. There's another reason. Ephisas. Another reason. Issei nodded his head as he walked over to the White Dragon Knight squad leader, standing right in front of him as he stared into the man's eyes. Issei. It's apparent that we are very weak at the moment, but if we enroll in the honored school, we'll become stronger and be able to lend you a helping hand. After he said that, many eyes widened a little as Ephisas decided to continue to listen to more of the brown-haired boy's words. Issei. You father and the regent, both of them are currently fighting for the sake of the human tribe. We too would like to pull our own weight for the country. This is the only way that we'll be able to repay the kindness that you've provided for us. Isabella. He looks weak, but the way he speaks, it's like he's experienced something like this countless times. Isabella knew that there was a strange thing about Issei. She hadn't forgotten what she had seen when the Red Dragon Knights had surrounded both him and her that night. The memory sometimes flashes into her mind, filling her with a multitude of emotions at the same time. Isabella. Just who are you? Issei was sweating a little, nervous since Ephisas hasn't said anything yet. He hoped that his works convinced him to allow both he and Isabella to attend the honored school, then again who would fall for what comes out of his mouth. Greg. There's no way this works, you basically pulled every book out of a dictionary. Issei. Yeah, I think we're bucked DDR. Just as Issei was lost in thought, Ephisas suddenly placed his hands on his shoulders, causing him to jump in surprise. As he looked around, he noticed the air around him change, becoming tinted with a soft shade of pink. And then, to his surprise, the sparkles appeared once more, dancing around him in a playful manner. Sophisis. I didn't think that you would be concerned for me. He grew a small smile. Both Issei and Dreg were left absolutely flabbergasted by what had just occurred. It was hard to believe that Sophisis had actually fallen for it. Dreg. No way, there's absolutely no way that he fell for that. Issei. Apparently he did. Dreg. This dude is a bucking idiot. Issei. All people in Isekai are, how the hell are we even still alive at this point? Dreg. I don't know. Isabella. Mr. Group Leader. Sophisis looked over at Isabella. Isabella. We're not part of any royalty or honor. We can't be counted as regular citizens, you're our only hope into the honored school. Sophisis. I can enroll you at the school, you have lots of potential. As long as you study hard, you'll become a valuable asset to the country. He then looked at Issei. Sophisis. But you're still far off. Issei felt a sharp sting in his heart. Why did Sophisis have to remind the poor boy of how weak and useless he was? It was already bad enough that he got reminded when he was training for the raiding game, now he has been reminded once again of how weak he was. Issei. Story of my life. Meanwhile, far from the human capital, in fact, the location was so remote that no human or other mythical creature dared to venture there. Why would they? The spot was barren except for several large trees which were grey in color, not quite burned, but they didn't resemble anything metallic either. Walking through the dead forest was a cloaked man, a cultist who held only a torch to light his way. The man appeared to be in his early 20s at most. He wore a black cloak with golden outlines and a symbol of a dragon on the hood at the back. The man had been traveling for days through the bleak, lifeless forest, his feet dragging with exhaustion as he trudged through the underbrush. But finally, he had arrived at the cave, the place where he would fulfill his purpose. As he stepped into the darkness of the cave, his torch flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. But the man was undaunted, his eyes fixed on the goal that lay ahead. As he descended deeper into the cave, the darkness grew more intense and the sound of his footsteps echoed through the cavern. But he remained focused, his mind set on the task at hand. Finally, he arrived at the end of the tunnel, where a massive stone door stood before him. The door was inscribed with ancient runes, and the man could feel the power emanating from it. With a sense of reverence, the man placed his hand on the door and spoke the words of power that he had memorized so long ago. The door creaked open, revealing a cavernous chamber beyond. As he entered the chamber and the door closed behind him, he could hear the sound of his fellow cultists chanting in unison. As he entered the room, he saw the massive stone seal with a depiction of a dragon on it. He raised his arms into the air. Cultist. The countdown has started. The awakening shall commence when the 3 conditions are met. The cultists continued to chant, their voices growing louder and more fervent. The room began to shake, and the torches flickered as if a gust of wind had rushed through the cavern. The cultist continued to speak, his voice rising above the din of the chanting. Cultist. The first condition has already been met. The second will soon follow. And when the third is fulfilled, the dragon shall be unleashed upon the world once more. The cultists fell silent, their eyes fixed on the stone seal. The cultist raised his arms again, and a faint glow began to emanate from the seal. The countdown had begun, and there was no turning back now. Chapter 9. Choosing a branch. After deciding on joining the honored school in hopes of finding a way to get out of the capital and to the demon plains, both Issei and Isabella now had to choose a branch which they would be attending. Currently, the 2 married couple were standing in front of Sophisis as they left the leader of the White Dragon Knight's residence not too long ago. Standing next to him was his horse, which made Issei think that he was gonna head off to do something like patrol or whatnot. Sophisis. It's already 2 months into the academic year, we can only put you both in as late inset students. Issei. That's alright with me, it makes sense anyways. While heading over to where they were now, Issei learned that there were a total of 9 branches in the academy. Some of them, like swordsmanship, magic, archery, and even hand-to-hand combat, were the main ones that the students preferred to get into. Though there are different ones such as cooking, blacksmithing, and a few others that Issei can't recall. Sophisis. You'll present yourself to a guidance teacher in these 9 branches. After the presentation, the teachers will analyze your strengths and weaknesses and present you your most appropriate branch. Hearing this caused Issei to get a little bit worried. Once again, he was at a disadvantage here because he could basically do nothing. Issei can't use a bow, wield a sword, he has no knowledge on magic, he's okay at cooking, but blacksmithing is out of the question. Issei silently gulped to himself, he was screwed and he knew he was. Issei. Oh, I am bucked. I am so bucked. Greg sighed in his partner's mind, once again the boy forgotten something important like he always does. Greg. Yes, your partner. Issei twitched a little as he ignored the dragon's words, hell worry about him later. He cleared his throat. Issei. Sophisis. What happens if you can't do anything? Sophisis. The teacher will use a separate testing method than the actual branch method to test you. He smiled at the brown-haired boy. Suffices. As long as you are determined, you'll be able to pass even if you don't know anything. Suffices then gestured to a soldier who stood next to him. Suffices. I will now have Ichill show you the way to your guidance teacher. The soldier named Ichill saluted his leader. Ichill. Understood. While Issei had to admit he was a little skeptical with trusting some random soldier, there wasn't really much he could do about it because Suffices has already made the decision for both him and Isabella. Issei would just have to deal with it, though the fact that Suffices himself wasn't gonna come with them made the boy awfully curious about what he was trying to hide. He watched as the white-haired man jumped onto his horse. Issei. You not gonna come with us, Suffices? Suffices shook his head. Suffices. I need to visit His Highness with my father today. If you two pass the screening test then they will provide accommodations here at the academy. Issei. And if we don't pass? Suffices. I'll come fetch you and take you back to my place. With that, Suffices rode off with some of his troops. As Issei watched him go, he couldn't help but be creeped from what he said. First it was the weird sparkles and change of color at certain moments with Suffices, and now this. He swears that the leader of the White Dragon Knights continued to get weirder by the second. It concerns Issei. The boy swears that one day he is either gonna be gaped or experience something that would make hell look like heaven. He wasn't the only one creeped out either. Drake was a little creeped out too, and that's saying something considering the amount of things he has seen in the past. Like, he had to deal with Tiamat and she was just creepy in general. Speaking of that dragon, the Welsh dragon had to say that he was a little bit glad that both he and Issei were in a different world. The last thing he wanted was Tiamat showing up and killing Issei. Drake has had enough of her killing his host. She made him go through several of them already, and some were before they even fully awakened the dragon. How he would know this is quite simple, it's called plot convenience. Issei turned to the soldier. Issei. Why did he make it sound creepy? The soldier named Ichill chuckled slightly while Isabella scoffed to herself. Isabella. Human scum. Issei overheard the former Demon Queen's words, but for the time being, he chose to ignore them. Since her voice wasn't loud enough for Ichill to hear, he didn't have to worry about it, at least not yet. Instead, the brown-haired boy shifted his attention to the colossal structure before him. It wasn't just any ordinary building, it resembled more of a grand castle than anything else. Its towering walls cast an intimidating shadow over the surrounding area, and its intricate architecture hinted at its rich history and importance. Issei couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder as he gazed upon it. Issei. Honor Academy. Greg. I'm surprised that it resembles a castle. Issei. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Drake. But I feel like there had to be a reason. Greg. Probably, but we should focus more on getting you into this place before anything else. Issei had to agree with the dragon on this one, this was technically his first trial in this new world. Surprisingly he hasn't had to do much, unlike most Isekai anime he had watched back in his world. Normally in those, the main character sets off into the world on some grand quest from kingdom to kingdom, facing things like goblins, dragons, wolves, and such. But Issei hasn't had to do any of that, which was alright in his book, the less he does the better cause he was still weak. Chill. Well, shall we head over to the first branch? Issei. Sounds good to me. Isabella rolled her eyes. Isabella. If we must. Issei ignored Isabella's words, focusing on the task at hand. He'll deal with her later, for now anything she says is the least of his worries. Ichill nodded his head as he headed through the main gate with both Issei and Isabella following closely behind. The boy had absolutely no idea which branch they were gonna see first, but he figures it's gonna be a combat-based one. Meanwhile, somewhere within Honor Academy, sitting in front of a large statue of a mythical creature was a class who all had different emotions. Some were very excited for their class, some were a little nervous, some just had a serious face, while others simply were talking to their fellow classmates, not caring whatsoever. On the stage with a birdcage which held a small bird was a short muscular man, probably a dwarf or something with brown slick back hair that had white streaks in it. He wore a black vest with a red shirt underneath. Man. Today this oldie over here is gonna teach you how to master the Fist of Wind. The class looked very excited to be taught such a technique, much to the man's amusement. Man. But, before learning the Fist of Wind, you need to know how to use shadow strength. He cleared his throat. Man. Eli. Suddenly, someone from within the crowd of students quickly shot up when called upon. Here. The man smiled slightly, the one named Eli was a tall and extremely muscular burly youth with dark bluish spiked hair. He had an open vest and his signature red scarf. He had wrappings around his hands and wore combat pants with a red sash wrapped around his waist. Man. Why don't you demonstrate for the class? Eli. Understood. Man. Good, now hold on to this rock. The man tossed the boy a small rock as he walked up onto the stage. He didn't question why his teacher gave him the rock, since he knew exactly what he was supposed to do. Man. Now then, you see this statue? Eli nodded his head as he looked at the statue of what appeared to be a griffin or something similar to one. Man. Strike the statue with full force. Eli. Understood. Eli took slow steps towards the statue, his eyes glaring with intense determination as he pulled his fist back. His muscles tensed as he prepared to strike, and his eyes began to glow a deep red hue. With all his might, he threw a powerful punch towards the base of the statue, causing a loud boom to echo through the air. The force of the hit caused a small crater to form in the base of the statue, but it also resulted in many cracks appearing along its surface. Suddenly, the statue's head broke off, plummeting to the ground with a loud crash. Eli stood there for a moment, panting heavily as he surveyed the damage he had caused before he took a step back. He could hear his fellow classmates cheering and screaming praises at him, much to the boy's amusement. Student 1. Heh, so strong. Student 2. Whoa, that's Eli for ya. Eli chuckled as he turned to his teacher, his fist still clenched. Man. Now, open your hand. The boy obeyed and opened his hand, revealing the rock, or rather what was left of said rock. The force from the boy's attack had caused it to transform into nothing more than small sand. Man. Your strike was too powerful, you destroyed the stone in your hand. If you want to master shadow strength, you need to be able to strike, but not break whatever you are holding at the same time. Hearing this shocked the class and Eli, strike and not break what's in their hands. That sounds impossible. If they don't use all their might, then they'll surely die in battle. So how on earth could they do something like that? Student 3. That sounds difficult. Student 4. How is that even possible? Eli. Teacher, that should be impossible, right? The man merely chuckled as he turned to the birdcage. He opened the small door and took out the bird inside. Bird. Peep translation. What are you doing, you old book? The man ignored the bird's chirps of confusion as he approached the statue. He then reared his fist back, much to the bird's horror. Bird. Peep translation. New. As the man's fist connected with the base of the statue, a unique phenomenon occurred. A black and blue aura slowly enveloped his fist and emanated outwards, causing a powerful shockwave that echoed through the air. The impact was so intense that a massive gust of wind washed over Eli and his fellow classmates, forcing them to brace themselves to avoid being blown away. Dust and debris filled the air as they watched in amazement as the statue crumbled into countless pieces. However, their astonishment increased even further as their teacher emerged from the dust cloud, unscathed, and opened his hand to reveal the small, unharmed bird. It was an incredible display of power and control that left everyone speechless. Bird. Peep translation. What the hell happened? After remembering what it had just experienced, the bird quickly took to the sky as the old man allowed the small creature to flee. Bird. Peep translation. Getting out of here. Eli. Teacher. The old man looked at Eli had an expression of shock and awe, sweat running down his face, as he was a little terrified of his teacher's power. Eli. How did you manage that? The old man was gonna explain how he managed to do it, but before he could he was cut off. Holy shit. Everyone turned their heads to the source of the voice and saw Issei, Achille, and Isabella. While the brown-haired boy was awestruck from the power he saw, he was kinda worried about the bird. Issei. Is they bird gonna be alright? Like mentally? The trio walked on over as both Isabella and Issei got in stage. Man. What are you here for? Achille rubbed the back of his head, or rather his helmet. Achille. Hello, Teacher Mike, I hope we didn't interrupt your class. He gestured to both Issei and Isabella. Achille. These are the insert students, I brought them here so that you can give them their entrance test. The sight of Isabella caused a bit of commotion within Teacher Mike's class, mainly cause she was a girl. Student 1. Hey, it's a girl. Student 2. Whoa, you're right. Student 3. She's beautiful. Student 4. She wants to come and study here. Student 5. I don't think so, girls don't normally come and enroll for the course. Teacher Mike looked at Issei, looking at the boy he didn't see anything too impressive. He looked like the rest of his students, minus Eli of course. Though, he could feel something from the boy that was piquing his interest. Teacher Mike. So, you're the insert student. Issei. Yeah. I'm one of them. Teacher Mike. Listen here, mother bucker, are you here to learn CQC? In that moment, the elderly man's eyes emitted an eerie green glow, and suddenly, a massive shockwave was released, sweeping over the entire vicinity. The shockwave caused a visceral reaction in everyone present, and they felt their eyes widen in a mix of awe and terror. A few of Teacher Mike's pupils even began to tremble with fear, their faces drenched in sweat as they struggled to comprehend what had just happened. Student 1. He's unleashing his fear powers again. Student 2. He's done this once in the beginning of the year, how is he so powerful? Student 3. Scary. Teacher Mike stared at Issei in silence, expecting the boy to be trembling, but his eyes widened a little as he and everyone else was hit by a shockwave, similar to the old man's but completely different. The elf man started to sweat a little as he looked at the brown-haired boy, seeing a massive eyeball behind him, which gave off immense force of bloodlust. Teacher Mike. What the hell? Such bloodlust. Isabella gritted her teeth a little. Isabella. It's happening again. Just what is he? The former demon queen decided that it was time to end this before something bad happens. Who knows who would show up. Isabella. Hey, can we go to the swordmanship teacher yet? Chill. Teacher Mike. Little girl, you'll excel at mel combat. Isabella merely scoffed. Isabella. Sorry teach, I wanna learn magic or how to use a sword. Hearing this caused the old man to let out a small sigh. Teacher Mike. Ah, a pity. As he began to walk away, the old man's gaze lingered on Issei Hyoudou, who remained standing in place. Though unsure whether the boy was paralyzed with fear or simply deep in thought, Teacher Mike couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this young man than met the eye. Whatever Issei had just unleashed was beyond the capabilities of a mere human, and it left the old man wondering what other surprises the boy held in store. As he walked away, Teacher Mike made a mental note to keep a close eye on Issei, for he knew that this was just the beginning of a truly fascinating journey. Teacher Mike. What are you, boy? Chapter 10. Magic and Sword. After Teacher Mike walked off, leaving everyone speechless about what had just happened, including Isabella herself. The rest of the class decided to head off as well, but not all of them did. Chill, the White Dragon Knight placed a hand on Issei's shoulder which snapped him out of his trace. Chill. So, Issei. What did it feel like to experience Teacher Mike's fear ability? Issei blinked as he looked at the soldier, raising an eyebrow in confusion. Issei. Fear ability? What fear ability? Chill. Why, you're joking, alright. Issei shook his head, he didn't feel anything whatsoever. All he saw was the little man's eyes glow and nothing else. A chill is making it seem like that something was supposed to happen. He guesses that the people of this world haven't met anyone who isn't affected by their magic, well, if Issei could even call what they do magic at all. This actually started to worry Issei a little. If he made it seem like he wasn't affected by what they do, then people like Isabella will want to know who he really is. Although, there wasn't really much he could do now since he just told Chill that he didn't feel anything from Teacher Mike's fear ability. Issei. Nah, I didn't feel anything. Isabella, who had her arms crossed, was eyeing Issei from top to bottom because there was something strange with him. 1 minute he seems like weak human trash, easily killable, and now twice already he has done something which has left even herself, the Demon Queen, shocked to the core. She didn't understand it. How did he do that? She couldn't sense anything from him. He wad like an empty well, one with a bottomless pit, and went to the core of the planet. He didn't have anything, so why was she feeling like she should be glad he was helping her and not against her? Isabella. Just who is he? Issei soon noticed that the class was nowhere in sight. Issei. Did everyone leave? Not everyone. Issei perked up as he turned and saw the boy with the dark bluish spiked hair. If Issei remembered correctly, his name was Eli or something like that. Issei. Oh, you're still here, Eli. Yeah, I'm surprised that you didn't faint when Teacher Mike used his fear ability. Not many are able to remain standing after that. Issei shrugged his shoulders. Issei. I didn't even feel a thing, so couldn't really tell if I passed the entrance test or not. He then grew a small smile as he looked at Eli. Issei. But that doesn't mean that we can't still be friends. Eli? Friends? Issei held his hand out. Issei. Yeah, from today's onward I too will be one of the students of the academy. The name's Issei Hyoudou, and you're the first friend I made. Greg. Ah, smart thinking, partner. Greg understood the brown-haired boy's plan. He too saw what Eli did to that statue, and he could tell that it would be problematic for Issei if he turned out to be a bully or something. So becoming his friend at the first chance he gets was pretty smart. Greg had to admit that it was shocking to see his partner use his head for something actually smart. Eli looked at Issei's hand for a moment, but he soon grew a smile and shook his hand. Eli. My name is Alex Aches. Since you're so dead on becoming my friend, then you can call me Eli if you want. Issei chuckled. Issei. Sure, Eli. Eli let go of Issei's hand as he turned and began to walk off, waving back at the brown-haired boy. Eli. I'll be in the combat class if you ever need me. Issei. Sure thing. Isabella. HMP. Issei turned and looked at the former Demon Queen. Isabella. You don't have a single talent, but you can persuade people to be your friend. Issei's eye twitched a little. No matter where he ends up, he always seems to be called things like weak and useless. Having a talent is more than being able to do things like summon a fireball or swing a sword around. Issei. What's that meant to mean? The Chill knew that if he didn't step in, then this could end up being a fight. He doesn't want that to happen. The Chill. Since you don't want to learn combat, how about we move on to the magic and swordsman classes? Isabella. HMP, about time. Issei deadpanned at Isabella, shaking his head. Issei. She is such a tsundere. Greg. I have no idea what that means. Issei. Oh yeah, take a look through my memories. You'll find something. Greg. Okay then. Time skip brought to you by Drake. Searching up what a tsundere was. An open training ground, all seemed very quiet and peaceful, as the location looked like something one would find in a Chinese or Japanese home. The author can't tell the difference, he's a complete dumbass who probably just did something totally racist and will most likely be banned. Anyways, that peace and quiet was soon taken away as the whole area began to shake and rumble. Loud noises began to fill the air as two groups of people were seen in the training grounds, cheering and yelling in excitement. The reason for this was because in front of the two groups were their teachers, the teachers of the magic and swordsman class, who were currently battling against one another. The first was Dorona, the swordsman class teacher who was a slim woman with short black hair, grey eyes, and tanned skin. She wore a burgundy vest with a right shoulder guard over a black crop top and a combat skirt and sword sheath. Dorona. Issei, stop being so aggressive. The second person, Issei, who was the teacher of the magic club, looked like a young girl or woman who wore a witch hat and sat on a big green crystal ball. Besides that, there wasn't much else to go off because the wiki won't give the author any help. Issei. You're being ridiculous. She then held up a hand as several green fireballs appeared behind her. Issei. Your swordsman class is a ways hogging THR practice field, how are my students supposed to train here? She launched the fireballs toward Dorona who began to effortlessly dodge the attacks. Dorona. You should have just let me know in advance if you wanted to use it, did you have to attack me? She continued to dodge the attacks as the students on the sidelines began to cheer and chant for their individual teacher, hoping that they would win. Among the students of the swordsman class was Prince Tolsbury who watched with a smirk on his face. Bury. I want to see some action already, let them know the wrath of our swordsman class. A magic class student heard this and glared at Tolls. Magic student. You guys are being ridiculous, you always barge yourself onto the practice field. Magic student 2. He's right. Magic student 3. Yeah, he's right. At the back of the magic class, a student was too busy reading a book to care about the pointless arguing going on all around him. He wasn't the only one too, nearby an elderly man was sweeping THR ground as he had a tired and annoyed expression on his face. Old man. Hey, can we stop fighting? I cleaned up a moment ago and now it's all dirty. However, much to THR old man's dismay, his words went completely unheard by both THR students and the teachers who continued their battle against one another. Both seemed to be on equal levels of power, but eventually Issei managed to sort of land a hit on Dorona's shoulder armor, which caused her pause for a moment. But that was short-lived as she glared at the magic class teacher, her eyes glowing orange. Dorona. If you want to play like this, I'll play along with you. With that, Dorona charged toward Issei who narrowed her eyes at her fellow teacher's advance. She knew that Dorona was now taking this fight seriously, well a little seriously now, since it was obviously that the magic class teacher wasn't gonna give up. Issei quickly summoned a green magic circle in hopes of blocking Dorona's incoming attack, but in a blink of an eye, she disappeared from her point of view, which caused Issei's eyes to widen in surprise. Issei? What? Suddenly, Dorona appeared behind her with her sword now engulfed in electricity. Dorona. You aggravated me first. She swung her weapon at her fellow teacher, but Issei managed to put up another shield in the nick of time as the two powers clashed against one another, which resulted in a shockwave and a flash of light. Just then, Dorona's lightning bounced off Issei's shield and heading straight toward the old man who was still cleaning, not noticing THR danger. However, footsteps were heard as Issei Hyoudou appeared and tackled the elderly man to the ground. The lightning struck the ground, causing an explosion which gained everyone's attention and put a stop to both Dorona and Issei's battle. Both Issei and the elderly man groaned in pain, mainly cause they fell to a stone ground, and that isn't good on one's back or head. The brown-haired boy didn't plan on saving anyone today, mainly cause he wanted to find a branch in the academy and get things over with quickly, but turns out his body had other plans for him. The moment he saw the attack heading toward the old man, Issei's legs just moved on their own and dove in to save him. Maybe it was cause he always wanted to be a hero when he was a little kid, he played hero with his childhood best friend, who unfortunately had to move away a long time ago. Maybe there was a part of him that wondered if he saved someone, then he would be a little popular with the other students of the classes. Sure, he didn't know what he was gonna pick just yet, but it was sure worth a shot. Issei rubbed the back of his head as he looked at the old man. Issei. Hey, old man. You're alright. Old man. I'm fine, but what about you? The old man pointed at Issei as he sniffed the air, smelling smoke as he looked and saw a small fire on his clothes. Though instead of panicking like a complete idiot, Issei merely sighed in annoyance and began to pat out the fire which left a small mark on his clothes. Issei. Great, I just got these clothes. Greg. Partner, I'd watch out for that old man. This gained Issei's attention. Issei. Why? He seems like a perfectly normal old M. Before Issei could finish, he noticed two things. The first of which is that the old man was nowhere to be seen, which confused Issei, because unless there is some sort of magic or old people are just built different, that shouldn't be possible. Issei didn't even take his eyes off him, plus he has Drake who is basically his eyes and ears all around him. The second thing that he noticed was that Dorona was pointing her sword at his face, probably should have stood up on his part. Dorona. You're not a student here at the academy, are you here to sneak in on classes? Issei. Okay, jokes aside. How the hell does she not know I could be a student of a different class? Greg. Don't make things more difficult for you, partner. Issei. I'm not, but where did that old man go? Greg. Not sure, he was there, and then he wasn't. Issei. Geez, this world is weird. Greg. You can say that again, partner. Dorona. Dorona perked up and turned to see Achille and Isabella. Achille. Let's not get aggressive now, he's a friend of Sophisa's. As soon as the White Dragon Knight said that name, Miss Dorona's eyes eyed, and as Issei saw a small blush of excitement grew on her face. Issei. Is she? She then got right up in Achille's face, startling him. Dorona. Did Sophisa's come too? She began to look around very quickly with hearts in her eyes, repeatedly saying the word, where over and over again. This caused Issei to sweat drop a little, who would have guessed that someone would fall in love with Sophisa's. Actually, looking at Dorona and what she's doing, Issei can safely say that she has more of an obsession with him. Achille. Team leader had a few things to do, that's why he sent me here. Almost immediately, Dorona's attitude changed as she looked away with a look of disgust on her face. Dorona. TCH, what are you doing here? I see you brought guests too. Issei. Wow, talk about attitude change. Issei stood up and dusted himself off as he walked over and stood next to Isabella, who still had her arms crossed. Seriously, she has had those crossed for a while now, and Issei wasn't sure what to make of it. Like, he knew that she didn't like it here and all, but she could at least try and make it seem like she's excited about doing something. He swears, sometimes Issei feels like he's doing all the bloody work while she just sits on her fat ass and watches. Sooner or later, she'll mess up, and when that happens Issei won't be there to save her ass. Achille. They're insert students that just arrived, and they haven't found a branch they want to learn at yet. Dorona. Insert students. Did Sophisa's allow this? Issei, who heard the conversation, floated on over to the group. Issei wondered why didn't she just walk on over, is she really used to floating on that orb that she can't walk anymore? Issei. Does the school principal know about this? Achille. The principal already agreed to my team leader's request. Dorona stared at both Issei and Isabella in silence, scanning them over as she didn't seem to find anything interesting about the two. However, when she got to Isabella's chest, she couldn't help but blush and look down at her own, which was pretty mud flat. Did Sophisa's allow her to join due to her big chest? No, he would be like that. Sophisa's wasn't like that at all, he would never do such a thing. Dorona eyed Issei's chest, which wasn't as flat as the swordsman class teacher. Issei noticed and she glared at her, annoyed with a small blush on her face. Issei? What? Meanwhile, whispers began to spread among the Mavic and the swordsman classes, who were shocked to hear that there were two insert students. Although, most of the whispers weren't even about Issei himself, they were all about Isabella. It both annoyed Issei and made sense to him, she was a beautiful young woman with a nice body, so it's not really a surprise that the students would act like that. One of the swordsman class students looked at Yuri. Sword student. Hey, that chick looks pretty good. Yuri. She seems average to me. Achille gestured to Issei. Achille. This one here is called Issei Hyoudou. He then gestured to Isabella. Achille. And she's circa. Dorona. Since you both are new, let me take a look at your power. Issei. Power. Dorona slammed her sword into the ground, causing the stone to crack as she stepped back. Dorona. Which one of you is going first? Silence filled the air as neither Issei nor Isabella said anything or moved a muscle. The former demon queen most likely had another agenda, but Issei was kinda freaking out because he still doesn't know what the magic is like in this world. Dorona. Hey, what are you waiting for? Issei. HMP. Dorona looked at Issei as she jumped off her orb, she turned and raised her hand at it, and then it started shrinking down to the point it looked like a baseball. Issei was surprised by this, looks like the little midget can actually walk. Issei walked over to Isabella and held out the orb in her hand. Issei. Take this. Issei decided that he has had enough waiting, he needed to know THR magic of this world, and he wanted to know now. He turned to Achille. Issei. Hey, Achille. Achille. Yes Issei. Issei. Is THST magic ball the item that's supposed to test the amount of potential that person has? Achille. Do you not know about the boundary force? Boundary force. Hearing that word caused Issei to raise an eyebrow, is that what they call the magic in this world? Boundary force. Issei had to say, he totally wasn't expecting that to be the name of it, but looks like he learned something new. Then again, the way Achille asked that question made Issei a little nervous, because he made it sound like that the boundary force is something that all kids should know about. Issei. No, I was a slave at the demon tribe. So I've never heard of it before. Achille. Ah, right. I completely forgot about that, I can tell you about the force. Issei smiled. Issei. Thanks. Achille. You see, the boundary force is something that resides within all living beings whether they are humans, animals, or even plants. However, the force isn't readily usable. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. Then how do you use it? Chill. To be able to use the boundary force, you need to allow your body to push to a point called the boundary point. He turned and looked at the green orb that Isabella took from Issei's hands. Chill. That magic ball over there can reveal the boundary force within an entity. Issei. I see. Is there certain levels of this boundary power? Chill. In a way, yes. Think of THR boundary force like water, and there is a cup within your body that holds that water. The size of that cup dictates how much water you can hold. The boundary power can be enhanced straight from training into large capacities. He then looked at the swordsman and magic class students. Chill. Both swordsmen and magic class students both required a large amount of boundary force. If their cup is too small then they won't be able to attend the class. They'll have to find another class. He then looked back at Issei. Chill. The demon tribe calls it magic force, and they call boundary power the well of magic if I remember correctly. Issei. So that's how this world's magic works. Greg. It appears so. Looks like we won't be attending neither the swordsman class nor the magic class. Issei nodded his head as he noticed that the males of the magic and swordsman class were looking at Isabella with hurts in their eyes. Magic 1. Hey hot tie Hattie, come join our class. Magic 2. Yeah, he's right. Magic 3. There's a lot of hot dudes in the magic class. Sword 1. No, join us. Sword 2. Yeah, we're way better than those magic losers. Sword 3. We have money. Hearing all of those words caused Issei's right eye to twitch as he glared at the Teo classes. Chill, who was standing next to the brown-haired boy, began to sweat a little as he moved away from Issei. If Issei was able to withstand the fear ability of Teacher Mike, one of the strongest beings in the whole capital, then he doesn't want to know what he is like when he is angry. Chill. Probably should tell Miss Dorona and Miss Issei to not let their male students near her. The white dragon soldier cleared his throat, gaining Issei's attention as he could have sworn he saw his eyes change from green to brown. That worried him even more, but decided not to say anything about it for the time being. Chill. In a moment, if that magic ball shines a weak light then that means Yi Bei's power will be considered average, and she'll be able to attend the magic class. Issei. And if there isn't any light? Chill. Then she'll have to give up on the swordsman and magic classes. Issei was a little worried now. As far as he knew, Isabella didn't have any of her powers when she was the demon queen. She lost most of them when she was betrayed by that traitor, plus she used a lot up when she brought him into this world, and he has no idea if there was even a single drop left within her. If they can't get into one of the classes, they won't be able to get stronger to set off to the demon land, which means that Issei shall be stuck in this world for the rest of his existence. Issei slowly gritted his teeth, though not noticeable by anyone except for Drake, who was also worried about his partner's situation. If this doesn't work then the Welsh dragon wasn't sure what they could do. They didn't know anything about this new world, it was all a mystery. Dorona looked over at Isabella. Dorona. It's been long enough, I thought you had some potential at least. Issei. Shut it. Dorona. Huh? Dorona lured over at Issei, whose eyes widened in shock. Before long a bright light began to appear which shocked the swordsman class teacher to the core because she had never seen anything like it before. Random student 1. Whoa. Random student 2. What's going on? Isabella had a normal expression as she held the crystal ball in her hands, the object glowing brightly. Dorona. What? Chill and Issei were shocked too, the white dragon soldier for different reasons entirely, but Issei was surprised that Isabella was able to do this. Issei. Whoa. Chill. She's really something. The students, mainly the magic class, were shocked by what they were seeing. They had no idea such a thing was possible. In fact, it was so shocking that it gained the attention of the person in the back who had been reading a book. Originally, he wasn't bothered by the introduction of inset students because he had more important things to do, but after sensing what was happening right now his interest has been piqued. He looked at Isabella with interest in his eyes, someone like her with such potential. The possibilities could be endless, well, almost endless. Issei gestured as the crystal ball floated out of Isabella's hand and back to the magic class teacher, who looked at the former demon queen with a raised eyebrow. Issei. Have you learned magic in the past? Isabella. I have learned some magic, but due to unknown reasons. I've lost my boundary force. Issei narrowed her eyes. She wasn't 100% sure yet, but she got the feeling that Isabella wasn't telling the whole truth. But she can't tell what is the lie and what was the truth, so she'll possibly have a new student who is hiding something about them. Issei. I can't feel a bit of her boundary force, but she has a lot of boundary power within her. I haven't seen anything like this in a century, no a millennia. Issei grew a small smile as she held out her hand, which Isabella accepted and shook. Issei. You've been accepted, I'll start teaching you now and I'll be your teacher. Hearing this immediately caused the whole magic class to let out their calls and cheers of excitement, joy on their faces, as they had just gotten a new classmate and one who had a lot of potential, which meant that they will be number one. The chill. Yi Bei is really something, she made the sphere explode with light. Issei couldn't help but deadpan. Issei. She is the Demon Queen. Verona looked at Issei with her arms crossed. Verona. Congrats to you, you've got a special one. Isabella looked at the two teachers before she turned and walked over to the sword that Verona had placed in the ground, gaining the two's attention as they eyed at her. Issei. You've already passed my test, why? They watched as Isabella grabbed a sword and picked it up, having it pointed at the sky before starting to examine it. Isabella. I'm still torn between studying magic or swordsmanship. Verona raised an eyebrow at this. This girl wasn't actually considering a hit she was saying. Verona. You're not actually thinking that you can be part of both the magic class and swordsman class, right? Isabella continued to examine the sword, running her fingers along the flat side of the blade. Isabella. I studied the seared with foreigners, I just don't use one often. The chill. Yi Bei, the magic teacher has already accepted you. Why don't you? Isabella. I want to try. This shocked everyone as silence filled the air. No one was more shocked than the two teachers themselves, because this had never happened before in their entire life of working at the academy. No one has ever attempted to join two different classes before, it's totally unheard of. However, as Verona stared into Isabella's eyes and saw her determination, she couldn't help but chuckle. Verona. Alright then. I see. Huh. Verona. Let's begin your test. Verona turned her attention to the rest of her students. Verona. Which one of you would like to test the new student? Whispers begs to spread among the students of the swordsman class. No one was sure if they should go and challenge her to a little sparring match. However. Let me show it, teacher. Verona turned and saw Tolsbury walking forward, drawing his sword as he had a grin on his face, which made Issei want to walk over to him and slap it off his face. Yuri. Don't worry, little one. I'll go easy on you. He walked onto the field and faced off with Isabella, smirking at the former Demon Queen. Meanwhile, a chill felt a shiver run down his spine as he turned and saw that Issei didn't look very happy whatsoever, and that terrified him even more than he was before. A chill. How can one boy be so terrifying? What is he even mad at? Verona looked at the two, crossing her arms as she had a serious expression on her face. Verona. This is only a test. She turned her attention to Yuri, who still had a grin on his face, which angered Issei even more. Verona. You will not be allowed to use your boundary force. Yuri. Of course, I won't hurt the little lady. Issei gritted his teeth as the temperature around him began to increase, causing the ground beneath him to melt a little, which both surprised and terrified Ichill, who decided to remain a total of 10 feet away from the brown-haired boy. He looked like he was about to explode or something. He doesn't want to be anywhere near that when it happens. Ichill still has a lot to live for, dying isn't a part of his plan. Isabella noticed Issei's behavior and saw that he was gonna drill a hole in the ground with that insane temperature of his. This annoyed her because he always said not to do something stupid, and yet there he was about to do the same thing. Isabella. TCH, idiot. Verona. Alright, let's start. As soon as Verona said that, Yuri immediately launched himself toward Isabella. His eyes glowed slightly red as he prepared to jab at the poor lady, only for her to easily dodge his attack and have the blunt of the force strike her sword instead. This shocked the crimson red boy at first, but it only lasted for a few seconds before he went back to offense and quickly turned and leaped over Isabella. Wab was taken aback by this action. Yuri brought his sword down upon Isabella, though the white-haired woman managed to dodge the attack in time. She was never gonna admit it, mainly due to her personality and all, but this human certainly had some skills. That just proved that she needed to learn as much as possible to reclaim her power and her rightful place upon the throne in the demon plains. Yuri landed as he looked at Isabella with a smirk. Yuri. It seems like this lady here has some tricks up her sleeve. Isabella. HMPH. However, she soon noticed something as she looked and saw one of her bra straps suddenly snapped, which caught her off guard. She figured that it was from the human's previous attack. She may have dodged it, but that didn't mean she didn't get inflicted by something. The males in the swordsman class began to cheer for their fellow student. Male 1. Whoa. Male 2. Shai's eye is really powerful. Male 3. Is this how Shai's eye fights? Ichill couldn't help but sweat drop nervously. Ichill. Do they have a death wish? His gaze turned to Issei, whose face was fully covered in shadow as all he saw was one of his eyes, which was glowing bright green. The heat coming off his was cranked up to 11 as more of the ground melted around the boy. Ichill. He's gonna kill someone, I just know it. Yuri chuckled as he charged at Isabella once again, only this time not only did she dodge the attack by ducking, but she also went for a counter-attack. Yuri noticed this and managed to block her attack with his sword, but the crimson red boy didn't expect her to be so fast. He was just thinking that she was dodging with nothing but pure luck, but that didn't seem to be the case. Yuri jumped over to THR other side of the field as Isabella gave chased after the boy. Tolls narrowed his eyes as he thrusted his sword forward, which was blocked by the former Demon Queen's blade as she moved to the right of Yuri and caused him to stumble a little. She went to swing at his back, but Yuri quickly blocked the attack, but the force of the clash caused him to skid back a few feet. He gritted his teeth as he went to glare at Isabella, but his eyes widened as she was already in front of him yet again. She swung her blade at him, but Yuri jumped back a little to dodge it. However, this wasn't over by a long shot as Isabella began to spin around, shocking Dorona who watched. Dorona? That ability is. Yuri gritted his teeth as he tried his best to block her attacks, but she was spinning so much that he couldn't keep up with the blade, and that annoyed the Crimson Red boy. Yuri gritted his teeth as he tried his best to block her attacks, but she was spinning so much that he couldn't keep up with the blade, and that annoyed the Crimson Red boy. Yuri. Shit, I don't think I can keep up much longer. At that moment, Yuri's eyes began to glow red as red veins began to appear on his arm that held his sword. Isabella's eyes widened as she watched as the boy's sword was now covered by a crimson red aura. Isabella's eyes widened as she watched as the boy's sword was now covered by a crimson red aura. Yuri. He swung his sword at her, causing an explosion in front of the two which made Isabella jump back to avoid it. Issei. Hyoudou. Yuri grinned maliciously as he swung his sword, launched a red slash attack toward Isabella, who watched as it approached her. Was this it? Was this her end? Was she gonna die here? However. Ice field. The blue magic circle appeared and blocked the attack, shocking Yuri as he saw the one who had stopped his attack, and it angered him. Yuri. You. Holding Isabella in his arms was an attractive young man with blue eyes and purple hair. He wore an outfit that kinda resembled Issei's, except his were in a completely different color. The young man placed Isabella down and looked at her. Man. Are you alright? Issei saw this and decided to finally say something, no more standing on the sidelines and watching. The brown-haired boy took a step toward Isabella and the man, and as soon as he did, everyone in the whole area felt like gravity had just shifted on them. Many fell to their feet as they struggled to even breath. Dorona and Issei looked toward the source which was Issei, and their eyes widened as they saw something very big behind him. What was this? Was that a dragon? No. It couldn't be a dragon. They only knew of one dragon and it died off ages ago, there were no more left. But how were they seeing this? Issei placed a hand in the young man's shoulder when he did everything and everyone went back to normal. Issei. Hey. The young man looked at Issei. Issei. Thanks for saving my wife, man. Wife. Everyone was shocked from what they had just heard. Someone them hopped they were dreaming, or did the brown-haired boy just said the girl next to him was his wife? Yeah, that had to be the case. Issei turned his attention to THR former Demon Queen. Issei. Are you okay? Isabella looked away. Isabella. HMPH, whatever he was doing was child's play. Dorona looked at Achille, raising an eyebrow. Dorona. Are those two really married? Achille chuckled nervously and nodded his head. Achille. Yep. This caused Dorona to let out a small sigh of relief. Dorona. You should have said so earlier. With that, she began to walk to Yuri who was angry that his attack was interrupted, but shocked to hear that the girl she fought was married and to the one who just pulled of the most random bullshit. Did I not say that you couldn't use your boundary force? Yuri paused as he turned and saw his teacher, and she wasn't happy with him. She glared down at the crimson red-haired boy who began to sweat nervously. Yuri. I used it out of self-defense. Issei walked past Yuri and smirked. Issei. We're all humans here. But Renner is way stronger than you. Yuri gritted his teeth at the teacher's words. Yuri. You. She giggled as she walked over to Issei, Isabella and the young man named Renner. Issei. This is my apprentice, Renner, and it would seem that he found a suitable match for the future. Renner closed his eyes. Renner. I will try my best to become stronger. He bowed to both Issei and Isabella. Renner. Please, show me the way. Issei narrowed his eyes. Issei. Dreg. Yes partner. Issei. Remind me to punch this dude in the hick too. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.